Tua. Let's talk some Tua. What an interesting player heading in to next season. And I really do think that Tua is someone who I could see going either way. I don't think he's a bust, and I don't think that he's a great player either. I think that he is definitely in that in-between phase. If you look at this chart right here, this is just saying where do certain players, where are they projecting? This is for all the second-year quarterbacks that got playing time last year. Given how well they played via PFF grades, what does that typically project to? Not a perfect system, not an exact science, but it'll give you a rough estimate, get you in the ballpark. And you see guys like Herbert and Burrow are on the path to be great. Tua, who is in the middle there, just what this chart is means he has a 12.5% chance of being great, 12.5% chance of being good, 37.5% chance of SV, which is some value, and an equal chance that he would be a bust. Again, this is based on a relatively small sample size of the past 10 years. It is not an exact science. It doesn't mean that this is exactly the same, just that guys who performed as well as Tua did, this is typically where they ended up. The most average one would be in the some value category. Typically, some value, this is like a Teddy Bridgewater, for example. Someone who's, can play and certainly belongs in the NFL, but isn't someone you feel great about. That's the most likely outcome, but there have been great quarterbacks who have played like he has at this point. There have been good quarterbacks who's played like he has for some point. So this will give you a quick, idea, but we got to watch film, and that's what we're going to be doing. Let's start off with something like this. This is a good example of what he does well. I want to talk about the positives first, because there are absolutely positives in Tua's game, and I think that, it's definitely a meme to make fun of Tua and all this bad stuff. There's some good stuff in Tua's game, and this is kind of what he does well, I think, where the way this play concept works, it's going to be a rollout to Tua's left, and Tua actually does a lot better, rolling towards his body than across his body. Rolling to his left as a lefty, this is where he can really do a solid job, I think, and this concept is designed to beat zone coverage, which is what they're going up against. As you see, right when this play begins, you notice right here, so Tua can try to get the ball to Jalen Waddle, but it's not wide open. This is good coverage by the Giants. But look at Tua's throw. It's a good off-balance throw, perfectly accurate, and they were able to pick up a first down on that play. So that's a good play from Tua, and he can do this stuff consistently. And I think that's the biggest thing in Tua's favor, I would say, is he does the simple stuff consistently, which there's some real value in doing that. Like, watch, this one's another great example of what's going to be happening on Tua's right is you see how this is going to work, where someone's going to try to get into kind of, it's the receiver who's currently lined up to Tua's right, not the one in motion. He's going to essentially just try to get into a gap in coverage, but the gaps will be tighter. This is only a 3-man rush, so 8 players in coverage. Right when this play begins, Tua runs a play action, and you see that there is a window right here. It's a window. Like, there's certainly a window that Tua can make this throw. There's no doubt about it. But this is what Tua does when he's at his best, is these play action quick passes to guys that, you can fit it through a window and there are guys open. Tua has had success at this stuff. As you see, Tua makes the throw and they do pick up a first down. And listen, that on one hand, you could easily sit here and say, well, that's a play you should make as an NFL quarterback. And that's true, but I'm not showing this as an example of what he can do. Mostly what I'm talking about is he does this stuff consistently, and he has a very high percentage chance of hitting these throws, which is what you like about Tua. It's why his numbers when on script are very good. Like, this one's going to be another one of kind of a very similar play. It's going to be man coverage this time, so different play, but similar idea, I guess is what I should say, because it's going to be Jalen Waddle who's running over the middle, and watch what happens. Right when this play begins, Waddle does what Waddle does and gets open very quickly. That's kind of a classic Jalen Waddle thing. But James Bradberry, who's covering him, isn't too far behind, so you do have to put this ball in a good location if you're Tua. However, Tua does exactly that. Puts it in a perfect spot. It was dropped by Waddle, but that was a good throw from Tua, so good play by him, I would say. Again, these are not the highest degree of difficulty plays. I'm not going to sit here and say that they are, but it's a consistency thing. And when Tua has a guy to throw to, he hits him. And I'm not just talking about like when it's an obvious read either. Like, he'll make the correct read. He did on this play read that Waddle's the guy he should throw to, and he will typically find him and put it in the right spot. That's something he's been very consistent at. Now let's go over to something like this, because I think this is interesting, and this can kind of talk about maybe who Tua is a little bit, and it's actually reminding me of his former teammate, Ryan Fitzpatrick. So here's exactly what I mean. This is a man coverage play, And you see how this can work, right? With Jalen Waddle, who's going to be, getting open deeper towards the field. If the safety does not get over and cover him, you could potentially get open. Right when this play begins, you see that Waddle starts off his route, and it's a good spot, right? Waddle has the inside leverage, and you see how the safety is moving over on that side of the field as well. This appears to be open. It's also worth mentioning Tua has a completely clean pocket. So not a lot of these that the Miami Dolphins had last year. Obviously, their offensive line was not great. They have made a big effort to improve the offensive line. But I just want to say, there is a clean pocket right here. And this is kind of what Tua does a little bit, is he'll throw with anticipation, which is not what he did at all his rookie year. He started doing this a lot more his second year. And in some ways, it's really worked out for him. Look, as you see, he throws with anticipation, and he gets it perfectly because he read the play correctly. Jalen Waddle did get open, and they were able to pick up a big gain right there. And that's a big thing that you can do that can pick up some big plays. But much like Ryan Fitzpatrick, it will sometimes work out, but sometimes there's the other side of the coin. Like, for example, something like this, where what's going to happen is it's going to be man coverage once again. So again, kind of a similar situation. This time it is not Jalen Waddle, but it's still kind of a similar idea. Right when this play begins, you see how Tua looks up, and again, has the inside leverage. He's going to be cutting over the middle. This is essentially the exact same scenario we saw last time, but the result is going to be different. Tua does make this throw. There's no separation. It gets batted up and should have been intercepted, quite frankly. So what's the difference between this play and that last play? Well, the last play gets Tua a lot of praise. This play will get Tua a lot of criticism. But the reality is they're essentially the same play. I mean, all that was different was just the way the receiver and the defensive back played. And maybe you should say you should only do this with Jalen Waddle. I don't know. But now you have Tyreek Hill who can do that as well. But I think it just kind of goes to show that, listen, I'm going to bring it up because you have to talk about it when evaluating Tua. He doesn't have the biggest arm and sometimes has to rely on timing a little bit more, similar to how Ryan Fitzpatrick did it. I see clear comparisons between those two guys, not when they were playing together, but Tua now and Fitzpatrick then. Although, again, Tua definitely has the higher ceiling. There's no denying that. And also something like this where I'm not going to break down the entire play. It's a two safety deep zone coverage play, but watch what's going to happen. So Tua takes a snap. He, runs the play action, and you see how there is a gap that could get open in this zone coverage. So this is looking good. But there's one other thing you have to mention here, and this is an area where Tua has struggled, is he has not played well under pressure, and he's been under pressure a lot. So one thing that could get better is just he's not going to be under pressure as much, but even his numbers compared to other guys when they're under pressure are worse, and you kind of just see it on film. When he has to change his throwing motion, he's not as good as some other guys. He's certainly not Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert at this stuff. Watch him kind of shorten that throwing motion, which results in just a horrible misthrow, quite frankly, and that was an easy interception for the Jets. that was a bad throw from Tua, and typically these ugly plays that you see from Tua, because you see some, right? There was that ugly interception, for the against the Patriots. You do see he will have the occasional just horrible play, and it's usually when he's under pressure and he has to shorten that throwing motion. So maybe he has to just work on figuring out ways to shorten his throwing motion and still have success, or maybe just simply him not being under pressure as much, or him kind of saying, okay, if I'm under pressure, I got to throw the ball away more. Maybe that stuff could be a thing, because the reality is, if you're going to be an elite game manager, which that's kind of what, if you're a Tua fan, you believe he can be, is, Dolphins fans have compared him to Tom Brady. That's a real thing that has happened. Obviously not that he will be as good as Tom Brady, but stylistically, he can potentially do all the things that Tom Brady can do. I still feel like Tom Brady's arm strength is highly, underrated, but that's maybe a conversation for another day. The reason for it is because, hey, just make the simple stuff, and if you can do that at a high level, you can have a lot of success. Drew Brees was another guy where even late in his career, when his arm completely fell off, he had a lot of success, and it was because he kept making the right decisions. But if you're going to do that, you can't turn the ball over. Tua ranked 4th in turnover-worthy play percentage, with 4.8% of his plays being turnover-worthy. That's far too much if you're going to be this game manager type, and you have to get these turnovers down, which you can do. And that's the nice thing about a lot of these things that I've talked about with Tua are fixable issues, but they're still issues. And finally, again, I'm going to talk about it because it exists. Dolphins fans do not like when I talk about Tua's arm strength. I've paused it right here just so I can, set this up. But the arm strength does come into, it comes into play. I'm not saying that there's throws that he can't make that other regular quarterbacks can make. For example, him and Teddy Bridgewater, they're all realistically going to make the same throws. Like, there's no real difference there. He can make the throws that you expect from an NFL quarterback, but the reality is there's certain plays that he's just not going to be able to do compared to some of these guys who have big arms, and this is one of them. Look, right here, Tua takes the snap, he's going to roll out, and he realizes right here that deep down the field, he has an opportunity to get a big play potentially. The safety is covering someone else, so if Tua can make this good throw, which would probably have to be 50 yards down the field, and he doesn't have his feet entirely planted, then it would be a touchdown. That's a difficult play for him to make. I'm not mad at him for if he doesn't make this play, because this is hard. But as you see, when he throws this one up, he gets it about 40 yards down the field, and it was knocked away. If he got it further down the field, that's a touchdown. That's the reality of the situation. Patrick Mahomes gets a touchdown there. Is it fair to say that, well, he's not Patrick Mahomes, so that's a negative in his game? Again, if we're talking about will he ever win a Super Bowl, which is always the question with quarterbacks, because, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, typically a quarterback has to be a big part of that equation. That's a negative. I'm allowed to say that that's a negative. His ceiling is a little bit limited there in that aspect because he can't make that play, whereas there are other players who can make that play. A Baker Mayfield, say what you want about him, but he can throw the ball a long way and he makes that play. I think Tua does other things better than Baker, so that's kind of the thing, but there are some real negatives. So that's kind of my final verdict on Tua. You have to clean up the turnovers, and should he or should he not throw with anticipation, I think is an interesting discussion, and I don't really know the answer, quite frankly. I think that, maybe try to do it sparingly, but it can work. It can be effective. There's just usually, again, it's going to result in some turnovers here and there. However, the Dolphins have done a great job at putting Tua in a position to succeed. So while he is maybe someone who doesn't do great when things are out of structure, there should be a pretty good structure in place, and that's the nice thing about Tua. So I would actually bet on him having a good season next year. Again, Dolphins fans will be saying I'm too hard on Tua. Tua haters will be saying I'm too light on Tua. But this is honestly how I believe it. I believe that from what we've seen from Tua, he's great on script. He's not great off script, but there'll be a lot of on-script plays that'll work next year, so he'll probably be good. That's what I think about it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.